So in this new version, we have expanded our rollout phases functionality. So now what we have done is we have added an input file called rollout phases. So this is a polygon file which can be used to define different areas for different phases. Using the rules GUI, you can place extension equipment between these rollout phases. In bill of material for each phase, we have added a separate spreadsheet. So for this, the key benefits for this is you can quickly define these different areas for different rollout phases just by creating a simple polygon. And there is a clear overview of cost breakdown per phases in a separate spreadsheet. I'll show you a demo of this. So here we have a demo workspace. As you can see, there is a separate file called in_rollout phases. This is an input file. We have created different polygons for different phases. So we have rollout phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. In here, we have few demand points which we call as outliers or exception demand points. So these have a connection where we have told them that we don't want to place distribution and drop layer. So that means the distribution ducts, equipment and the drop ducts and cables will not be placed. It will only be placed when the end user asks for activation. So let's see how it looks in the output. So here we have an output. So what you see on the screen, there is a blue duct. This is a feeder duct of phase 1. So as you can see, it's all spread out across the polygon of phase 1. Here we see that there is an extension equipment placed, and it is placed because there is a phase 3 duct, feeder duct, which starts from this extension equipment. So when the deployment of phase 3 will start, the software will the deployment will start from this extension phase. This functionality is based on the principle of we dig only once. So when there is a deployment of phase 3, we can start from this extension equipment, and everything which is required till that point for phase 3 is already placed while we were deploying the phase 1 equipment. So we see here, we will switch phase 2 feeder duct. So in phase 2 feeder duct, it starts from this point. So reason there is no extension equipment here is because there was already a drop point or a drop box placed here. So software tries to utilize already existing equipment. So it starts without an extension equipment, and the duct can be started from this drop point for that phase. And for phase 4, there is an extension equipment placed here because there was no close by existing equipment for other purposes. So the software places a new extension equipment which can be used to put ducts for phase 4. So let's see what happens with the cables. So that is your feeder cable for phase 1. Then you have your feeder cable for phase 2. So the reason we see the feeder cable going from central office till phase 2, connecting a distribution point in phase 2, is because when they will deploy the feeder cable, they will blow the cable from central office till the phase 2 distribution point. And that's why you see a clear cable going through phase 1 polygon to the phase 2. So that's the same thing applies for distribution ducts. So you see the distribution ducts of phase 1 in the phase 1 polygon, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. So as you can see, in distribution, all ducts are placed within the polygon as they will be deployed when that phase starts. There were few demand points with special attributes we have given, which will only be deployed when the end customer asks for activation. So here, these two were those demand points which will only get activated. So the distribution equipments and the drop equipments plus the cables and layer ducts will only be placed when the client asks for activation. So what's the difference? How software evaluates that? So we'll see in distribution ducts. If we see from here, first of all, there is an extension equipment placed here, and that is because whenever the software asks, when the client asks for activation, then we can start from this extension equipment and place ducts and cables from here. If we will see that the deployment is set to false. So they will not be deployed at this initial design phase, but it can be extended in the future whenever the client asks for it. And the reason we separate that is so that all these outlier and exception demand points can also be considered during the design phase, and the planning and designing can take place according to them as well. But the deployment is, we are separating it, and clearly it will be shown in the bill of material as well. So the planner and designer can separate them. The bill of material cost can be separated as well, but during the designing and planning, they can still be considered. And now let's see in the bill of material. In bill of material, as you can see, there are different phases there are different spreadsheets for all phases. So there is phase one. So you have separate spreadsheet for all different phases. So as you can see, there is a clear breakdown of cost per phase.